So our group is much less organized than all this Walnut Creek thing. It's really amazing. But we have about 100 people on our roster, both caregivers and people with Parkinson's at various stages. And at any one meeting, we meet once a month. How often do you guys meet?
Once a month.
Once a month. We meet once a month, and anybody's welcome if you want to check us out. We're called the Berkeley, Oakland Parkinson's Support Group. We used to be I was in charge of the Berkeley one, and then Karen Agan was in charge of the Oakland one, and then we decided it would be easier if we joined forces. And so now we meet sort of halfway between where we used to be at the senior center in Oakland Senior Center. And so only about 15 to 20 people show up every month, depending on, I guess, who the speaker is, I don't know. But we do send emails to everyone, and I agree, emails are mostly the most important thing. We used to send flyers, but that got to be very expensive. We also don't have any dues. We don't have a board, but we have about 3 people helping besides me. So as you heard in the introduction, my husband just recently died. He had Parkinson's for a long, long time, and for over 15 years, he was really pretty good. And then slowly it got harder and harder. So I was told I should talk about some stories, okay? So I guess the first thing I will tell you is about my husband and how important it was that I had the support group when my husband did die. My husband, for a while there, was unable to walk, so I wheeled him around in a wheelchair, and the wheelchair was a gift from a support group member. You know, you can get wheelchairs for not much, but it's so nice to get things from people who don't need them anymore. That's one of the things our support group does. Later on, when he was, well, this was right weeks before he died, when he couldn't even get up out of bed, someone gave me a lift, which is a great big thing, and it really helped. You can sort of roll him over onto this thing and pump up the lift. It really helped. And so that, something like that for support group. But the main thing that the support group really helped me with my husband was at our memorial service. We had a wonderful memorial service. I know Charmaine came. She's still here. Yeah, it was so wonderful to see her, you know, because I talked to her on the phone so many times, but she actually came. And there were lots of people. I have a musician sister, and she played really great music. Foray, I don't know if you know classical music, but it was just wonderful. And a neighbor who was a cellist. But the point is that there was a room full of Parkinson's people who came because they knew us from the support group. So that really helped us a lot, helped me a lot. My sons were there. So that's my first real story. I think that's one of the things support groups are for. Now what we do at our support group is we usually have a speaker that we I invite speakers I'm interested in. I used to be in medical research, so I like to really try to get after the science. For example, I don't know if you've heard about a protein that they now find really closely associated with people who, every person who has Parkinson's has a slight elevation of this particular protein. It's called alpha-synuclein. And they discovered it because there was a family in Italy that had tremendous amount of Parkinson's, young onset Parkinson's, and so they looked at their DNA and they found that the gene that codes for this protein was in duplicate in this family. So that's how they connected. And then this person in UCSF, his name is Robert Edwards, is looking at this protein to see, a lot of people all over the world are, to see what it does. In fact, somebody just recently started a trial in Europe, I think it's in England, where they're going to try to, very high risk, people who have very high risk for Parkinson's, to see if they can, like this family, you know, if they can prevent them by vaccine against the protein. So, I don't know. Anyway, Dr. Edwards is coming to our support group. He's coming in Sunday. He said he can't come Thursdays, so he'll come. We may have a special meeting for him on Saturdays, and so I'll, if you're interested, give me your emails, and I'll tell you when he comes to explain what he does. Sometime probably in the spring. He works at UCSF. Okay, so that's very important to get information like that from support groups. So that's another one of my stories. Which reminds me, we have a wonderful person. Her name is Joyce, who helps me. She does the emails, which is a great thing. And her husband was very skeptical. He had Parkinson's, young. He didn't have it for long, and he said, "I don't want a support group. You know, everybody crying on each other's shoulders." But he came a couple of times, and the fact that we had all these wonderful speakers, and we talked. We don't talk. We talk health, and we talk science. He's coming all the time now because he was surprised that it was a fun thing to do rather than, you know, just. So that's another one of my stories that. Yeah, he really does come because he was surprised. And there are certain things that you may not hear from your physician. And you hear from, we do have a meeting every once in a while where we don't have a speaker and we all talk to each other. By the way, for that kind of thing, like I understand that you sort of have a separate grouping. It's better to have only about 12 to 15 people when you do that, but, you know, so that's fine. We go around the room, and sometimes things come up like hallucinations. I don't know whether you know, but hallucinations can be very scary if people don't know that that can be a side effect of, especially of some medication, like Mirapex. Everybody said that Mirapex is terrible, although it's so individual that different people react differently. But it was sort of comforting to hear that your person. I'm a caregiver, so I have to speak. You know, my husband wasn't the only one who was having hallucinations. I mean, he was at one point he was on Mirapex. He thought people were out there trying to get him. You know, he called 911, and I hear that some of our people said that yes, they did it too. They called 911. It's an interesting story that when my husband called 911, he kind of stopped and he said to the dispatcher, I thought I ought to tell you that I have Parkinson's. And the person must have heard this before because she stopped and she said, "Okay, sir." He said, "Now you tell me that there are people shooting out there. Are they still there?" And he said, "Well, no." And so she said, just call us back if there's anything. So she, you know, this happens. Now, another, somebody in our group was telling me that telling us that her husband would imagine that children would come in the house and he would have to give them cookies and things. And he imagined that they were there, you know. So I think it really is a side effect of the drugs, some Mirapex especially. So that's another thing. I mean, doctors usually wouldn't tell you things like that, so other patients would. Another sort of a personal thing that it was kind of comforting for me to hear, that it became very difficult for me to sleep in the same bed with my husband because he kept moving around, you know. I thought, you know, all this shaking and moving, and so I heard other wives also, just sort of, they sleep separately. And so it was sort of nice to hear that, you know, you're not the only one, that kind of thing. So, oh, and finally, I wanted to say one of the things that is very important if you're going to start a support group is to get yourself listed in different lists, like in the Parkinson's Institute has a list of support groups. The Parkinson's Foundation, as well as the National Parkinson's Institute, they're two different things, lists different support groups. Many times have because my phone number is listed there, people will call me and say, oh, I heard that you run a support group, you know, when does it meet and all that. So it's important to get yourself, if you're going to start one, get yourself listed in these organizations. PD Active, you've heard that before. PD Active is based in Berkeley, but they're a very, very interesting group because they do many activities. That's the whole point. They go on hikes. They have a dance group. They have a yoga class. You do too. They have support. They meet a little support group too. And by the way, one of the people who contacted me one time because they saw my name somewhere listed as a support group is a person who teaches hula dancing. Now I know that sounds a little strange, but he's a wonderful person. He's from Hawaii, and he really knows the authentic, sacred kind of hula that they do. And so he came to our meeting, and he was, it was wonderful because you could stay seated, because a lot of the hula stuff is the gestures with your hands. And so a lot of these people who can't even, you know, like my husband, you could do the gestures. They tell a story. It's wonderful. And he's going to connect with PD Active and maybe start a hula class for people with Parkinson's. So things like that, you know, I never would have thought of something like that. But if you're listed, then they will you know, people will think of it and contact you. I'm just trying to see. I don't know. If are any of you trying to start a group? I mean, if you're trying to start a group, my suggestion to you would be start small. You know, just get yourself listed, get maybe even 5 people together, and get yourself listed, and it grows. The way I got into it is that there already was a group going in Berkeley, but it was a very small group. It was only about 8 or 9 people used to meet every day, every month. And we kind of grew it up. I mean, now we have a listing of about 100 people. Still not as wonderful as you, but you have this enormous history in Walnut Creek, including incorporation and everything. We have about $100 in our, because we just collect, if anybody wants to give us a little donation. And we, yeah, is there anything you want to know? I mean, you're welcome to check us out. We meet on the second Thursday of every month in the afternoon. And if you want to get our email list, just put your email down in my little thing here and I'll email you. This coming month, which is this Thursday, we're having one of our no speaker meetings. So the following month, we're going to have this Mary, where is she here? She's going to come, yeah, to come and speak to us too in July. And then, like I said, Dr. Edwards, I'm really looking forward to this guy, because I really think that's going to solve it. Solve Parkinson's, finally, you know? Because you know what clinches that idea about alpha-synuclein being the culprit? Is you've heard of Lewy bodies? Well, Lewy bodies are amyloids. Amyloids are found in many different conditions, including Alzheimer's. It just means a sort of crystallized protein accumulation. But there are different kinds of amyloids. They have different proteins in them. The one for Alzheimer's has a different kind of protein. But they find Lewy bodies in Parkinson's, and they have mostly this alpha-synuclein in it. So that to me clinches it. So. Okay. That's it. I don't have any more to say unless you want to.
Do we have any questions? Any from Roddy? No?